Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Networking for Fundraising and Market Access. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant here at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we'll try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Wells Fargo, the Narit Foundation, Walmart.org, JP Morgan Chase, BPM, HubSpot for Startups, and Google Cloud. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls to step back, see how everyone in the room is doing today. This first one is going to ask, how are you feeling about your business? How are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? We'll give it a few moments for folks to respond here. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'll give it one more moment. All right. I am going to end this poll and share these results. All right, optimism coming up in the lead, but we definitely have some anxiety and surviving in the audience as well. So hopefully this shows you that no matter what you are feeling, you're not alone. And I'm very confident that our presentation and conversation today may help alleviate some of those feelings. So I'm going to stop sharing that poll and launch the second one. What is keeping you up at night? Is it finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one just helps us understand your current needs as a founder so we can make sure that the programs and resources in development for all of you continue to be valuable. All right, awesome. We got folks from California, Florida, New York, United Kingdom. Welcome. Illinois, Georgia, South Carolina, all over New York and California. I see North Carolina here as well. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. So great, Ghana. Awesome. Great to have all of you here from all over the place. All right, I'll give this poll one more moment. New Jersey. Awesome. Welcome. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. All right. And it looks like finance coming up in the lead, fitting for our topic today, but we got needs all across the board. So thank you all so much for participating. I'm going to stop sharing that poll. And without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Marian Siboni, founder and CEO at La Creme de la STEM. Marian, so excited to have you on for this topic today. It's super important, and I'm going to pass it right over to you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here today. So I will be talking about networking for fundraising and market access. I'm the founder and CEO of La Creme de la STEM. I will be talking a little bit about that over the next few slides. Next, please. I'm going to talk about the content. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm also going to talk about getting money for your startup, the VC world, and how to sell your solution. Then we will have a fireside chat moderated and facilitated by Michelle. So very excited for that. And you guys will be able to ask any question at the end of the session. So next, so to quickly introduce myself, so my name is Marion, or Marion, if you want to try the French way. I'm French, as you may hear. I've been living in the US just for 2 years, so I want to just share a little bit about my background. So I was working in Paris in the B2B SaaS industry. I work at Cisco, I work at Shift, there's an AI unicorn. I also work at MongoDB in sales and partnership roles. During my time in France, I won 2 Partner of the Year awards by Microsoft after launching and scaling a partnership from 2 to 24 countries for this AI unicorn I was working for. I moved to the US in September 2022. I led a community for women in tech that I scaled from 0 to 4,000 members. And then I landed a role at Techstars where I was director of sales and partnerships. During my time at Techstars, I also won a Startup and Tech Award from the French American Chamber of Commerce. I got the opportunity to be featured in the press with FAIR, that is a French organization. I also got the opportunity to be a speaker for the US Department of Commerce. So this is what you can see at the bottom of this slide. Those two opportunities led me to launch my own company called La Creme de la STEM. So since I launched, in June 2024, I became a top entrepreneurship voice on LinkedIn. I've been recognized in the press, whether it is in France, but also in the US with Authority Magazine, Tech National, and more to come. And I became a public speaker. So I'm attending a lot of startup conferences this year in 2025. I'm going to be a speaker at South by Southwest in Austin in March. I was a judge for Startup Grind. It's doing a big conference end of April in San Francisco. And I'm also going to be a judge for a panel I'm putting together for Viva Technology in Paris in June. So really, really excited. My journey has been extremely incredible since I moved here and also since I launched my company. Next. And I want to talk a little bit more about what La Creme de la STEM is. Next slide, please. So La Creme de la STEM is the only global private network for early stage female founders in tech and science. And I'm extremely excited to be talking today because I am opening the door of the community with founding members already being part of it. So this is a really, really exciting day for me. And there is just a question about, can you all see the slides? I just want to make sure that the presentation is okay. All right. So it looks like everything is okay on that end. Perfect. So today is my launch day for La Creme de la STEM. I've been building all the foundation for the past 6-7 months. I've been working with investors, so I have 140 VCs in my network. I'm going to send them deal flow. They're going to come to the platform, do office hours, PGFV session. The whole goal is to demystify the investing process. I'm also partnering with inspiring guest speakers who get it. So exited entrepreneurs, but also expert in their field. I have a really large network, and I want to share that access to knowledge with the community. And finally, I have secure partnership with large corporations like HubSpot, like a lot of different companies are partnering to provide exclusive perks and discounts for the members of the community. Before we move to the next slide and we move into like what you all are here for, can you put in the chat what are the different ways to get money for your company? Just want to see what you guys have in mind before moving forward. So if you can just like put it in the chat and just share what do you think are the different ways to get money? Yeah, so I see grants, accelerators, sponsorships, selling your services, friends and family, angel, VCs. Yes to all of that. Bootstrapping, yes. Angel VCs, high net worth individual, consulting, yes, that's another way for sure. Loans, venture capital, yeah. So I'm not going to be able to talk about all the different ways of getting money for your startup. I'm going to be focusing on two main ways. Next slide, please. So I will be talking about so getting money for your startup on two different ways. One that you almost all got is venture capital. And the other one that I feel like a lot of founders don't think about enough is customer acquisition. So those two ways of getting money for your startup have pros and cons. The pros about VC money is that you get a substantial capital to scale. You have expertise and network thanks to the connection that the VC has through their investors. You also get money to build credibility and visibility, like being a VC-backed startup definitely brings a lot of that. On the customer acquisition side, what you get is you get to validate your product market fit. You generate revenue, which is huge to get money for your startup, and you get feedback on the product thanks to the connection that you have with the customers. So I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into VC and what it means, and just to demystify the myth around the VC world. Next slide, please. So this slide is very important for you guys to understand what it means. The X10 in the middle means that this is the return on investment that VC are expecting. So whoever is participating in the VC world will be expecting this type of return. We're going to start on the left with the LP, limited partner. So limited partner or the different organization, entities, or individual putting money into a VC fund. They are passive investors. They can be high net worth individual, pension funds, family offices, insurances. It's like a lot of large corporations can be limited partners. They are going to put money into the VC fund. So let's take a VC that has like 10 million of capital to deploy. We can imagine that LPs have been putting 1 million each. So they put their money in, and then they expect a return to be multiplied by 10 over the next 5 to 10 years. So who is enrolling this amount of money? The GP, the general partner, is the one leading the day-to-day operations. They are the one deciding what the investment thesis is, what type of company they will invest in, how to deploy the capital. They can either be solo GP, or they lead a team. When they lead a team, they have other stakeholders helping them. They have the VC that are decision makers. So it can be full-time employees like managing directors or principals. So when you see this type of title within a VC firm, they are full-time and they are in charge of actively deploying the capital based on what the GP is deciding on. If you see venture partner or scouts, it means that they are part-time. It means that they are in charge of bringing the best deals to the VC, to the GP, the managing director, the principal, so that the money goes into company that can scale and grow, and again multiply by 10 the capital invested. Then you have entry levels employees, so it can be analysts that are generally in charge of market research. It can also be associates that are in charge of sourcing deals. Those individuals are also very important to have in mind, because they are your first point of contact when you talk to a VC. And they are the one that can decide then to pass the deal over to principals, managing directors, or general partners. So they don't have the final word to make a decision. It's also important to know that some of them have KPIs and they have quota of a certain amount of people they need to talk to. So talking to an investor does not mean that they're going to invest in your company. It just means that you get a first step in. And then once the capital is deployed, then you become a portfolio company. We can say portco, that's a word you will hear a lot within the VC world. So the portco, or the startup who got investments, were within their investment thesis. And those portfolio companies are again expected to have a return on investment of 10 times over the next 5 to 10 years. They have to have an exit strategy. Having an exit strategy is not something you need to have in mind for day one, but that's definitely something that you will be asked for when talking to VC. And it can be either an IPO with the Nasdaq, or it can be an acquisition by your main competitor, or a company that is looking to fill a gap through an acquisition rather than developing a new product on their own. And then once the exit is done, hopefully everyone gets 5 times the amount invested initially, which comes back partially to the LPs that can then reinvest, and here we go again. So now we're gonna move to the next slides, because something that is really important when talking to a VC is pitching your product. So there is a really easy way to pitch your product. It's to keep it in just one sentence, which is, my company, and put the name of the company, is developing, and you need to like define what you're offering exactly, to help a defined audience. So who are you selling to, who is your niche, who is the specific customer profile you're targeting, to help them solve a problem. So solving a problem is again the number one thing that VC think about, like, what problem are you solving? This is what should be obsessing you. And then with the secret sauce. So I'm gonna say that loud for my own company, so you guys can have an example. I invite you to do the same, to filling the gap for yourself, and to have always this one sentence in mind. So my company, La Creme de la STEM, is developing a private online community to help early stage female founders in tech and science demystify entrepreneurship, with interviews of 140 VCs, exited entrepreneurs, and perks from corporate partners. So you might think that pitching your product is only useful when you talk to VC, but you should always be pitching. You should always be pitching your product, because this is constantly evolving. There is a way of defining your company that will speak more to a certain audience. Let's say you talk to customers, you will adapt what you're saying. If you talk to VCs, you will insist on something else. If you talk to a friend that might not have a good understanding of the industry you're in, you also want to make sure you have like simplified ways of pitching to that person. So you should always be pitching. Like, pitching your product is really, really necessary, because you will be more and more comfortable with that. It will just become like something you do in your sleep. And that will help you for any type of introduction, whether it's a VC, a customer, again, a friend, a partner. Like, you never know who you're talking to and who that person might know. So pitching your product is really, really key. And again, it's constantly improving. Like, you might have some wordings, some people rephrasing your product in a way that actually makes more sense than the way you're pitching it. So which is why pitching your product is really, really important. Next slide. So pitching also helps you to get customers. So how do you get paid by customers? Well, first of all, you need to understand who your customer is and what, again, problem you're solving. So you might have this pitch in mind, or you might be working on it, but first and foremost, you need to do customer interviews and surveys. So I usually recommend to do around like 50 of those. Customer interviews are a little bit more complicated to get if you don't have a huge network, but reaching out to your friends on LinkedIn, doing some cold outreach works really well. Sending a survey that is like really clear with like lots of different questions, but still easy to fill up, will help you define if what you're building has a sense as an audience, what may resonate with the audience or not. Sometimes you might be surprised by the customer survey. Having customers interview is also a really good way to establish a first connection with future customers and build that trust and just get feedback on a really casual way. People are always happy to help, specifically startups. So having those customers interviews is very important. And you never know who that person might be in the future. That person might be an investor, they might be your first customer, they might be your partner, or they might just do a warm referral for you once you launch your product. So spending time on that is really crucial, and it comes back to pitching. And again, you should constantly be pitching. Once you have that and you have a good understanding of what is expected, you can move on to the next phase, which is MVP, so minimum viable product. The MVP is something that will, sorry, previous slide. The MVP is what's going to help you get those first feedback once the thing is live. So once your product or solution is live, because when we talk about customer interviews and customer survey, it's very theoretical. So once you have MVP, then customers can be like, okay, this is happening, and they can see what it looks like, and they can give you feedback. So I recommend getting paid for the MVP. I know this is something that a lot of startups have an issue to ask for, but I think it's completely fair. You're going to offer a product, you're going to offer something that still have values. If you decided to, take the leap on becoming an entrepreneur, there is a reason for that. And getting paid also helps you to show value, because there's a lot of free resources available, right? So you want to make sure that you have engagement by having like some paid users. And it can be the pricing strategy is entirely depending on you and the environment you're in, and the competitor you might see as well. But I really recommend getting paid, because getting free users is not a good way for you to convert them into paid users later. I can take my personal example. I'm using Gmail every day. When I started to have that creme.sm.com, I was really mad that I had to pay $6 a month just for that, because I've been used to get that for free for the longest time, for like the past 15-20 years, right? So now having to move from a free service to a paid service is impacting my experience as a customer. So again, get paid. Then the third way is ICP. So define your ICP, like your ideal customer profile. So are you selling to business in B2B? Are you selling to customers using channels, which is B2C? Or are you selling directly to consumer through social media or newsletter, or just your websites? And then you need to also define, like, are you addressing SMBs, small and medium businesses, or enterprise customers? It's really important to have a clear idea of who your ICP is, because you cannot sell to everyone, even if you think your solution can serve a lot of people. It's really important to have like a target customer. Next slide. So once you start getting paid by those customers, getting those customers, talking to VCs, what is extremely important, whether you decide to go with the VC road or not, by the way, is monitoring KPIs. Those KPIs will help you to know where you're at in your business and also help you be confident in your business. So the sales cycle length is very important. This is something you need to track since day one. You need to track what is the sales cycle since the first day you talk to a customer until the customer actually contracted with you. It will depend on if you're selling to enterprise customers usually have like very long sales cycle between 12 and 18 months, or if you sell to small and medium businesses, it's more between 0 and 6 months, and you want to make sure you monitor that to have a good understanding on how your customers are moving throughout the funnel of sales. Even if it's your first time ever, I really recommend documenting that, because it's really helpful to know what is working, what is not, and what is like normal or what is not. Like, so tracking that is extremely important. That's also like one of the main metrics that VC are tracking, and they are always going to try to like diminish the sales cycle lengths to generate more sales. Then the pipeline. So the pipeline can be like, for example, in the customers that you interviewed, like how many of them would be interested in buying your product. That can be your pipeline. Then how many customers are moving through, again, the customer funnel, whether it's like having a call with you, having several calls with you, having engagement. So having just a track of how many users are engaged with you is really important. And even when you're their customer, the level of engagement they have with you, whether it's like the amount of time they're using your app, the amount of time they're spending on it, just tracking all of that is very useful. Then we have like the revenue, obviously. So ARR, MRR are again words that you're gonna be hearing in the VC world. Customer retention rates, that's something that you would be able to track with a further over the next month or years, of how many customers are staying or renewing their commitment with you. And then finally, partnerships. So partnerships are a good way to also track the success. If you have a great name supporting your work, this is a huge sign of credibility. This is very encouraging for you, but also for your business and for your future customers or existing customers. Next slides. So the way that you can build all those connections once you have all those elements is through this very specific method I developed called highly effective networking. We will dig a little bit deeper into the fireside chat on all those different things. But first, what is very important is to build a network before you need it. So it comes back to what I was saying about getting customer interviews and those customer survey. Like, again, you don't know who those people will be in the future. The second one is give before you get. So you need to always think about the value you can provide when you talk to someone. You need to think about what's in it for them before what's in it for yourself. And having this give first mindset will really help you get a lot of value, get like a lot of authentic connections, because people will be more willing to connect with you if you are giving something rather than being in a pure transaction and expect something in return. The third one is connect on personal matters. So this might sound a bit silly, but when you talk to people and when you talk about your company, they will likely remember you if you talk about personal matters rather than pitching your company. So even if you have this great one sentence pitch that help you to have this first conversation, what they will remember is that you guys talk about your favorite restaurant, or where you're going for your next holiday, or what do you do when it's snowing in New York. Like, just try to connect on anything personal. That's really helpful to build connection and build again authenticity, because it shows that you're not just purely interested in that person for their title or the company, but for who they are as an individual. And then after the connection is established, you want to make sure you keep up with that person. So always follow up, but keep it short and sweet. We live in a world where it's very easy to meet a lot of people through social media, through in-person events, networking, and so on. And usually people that are networking are going to meet like 10, 20, 30 people that very same day. So what's going to make the difference in their mind, because they're not going to remember you, is to follow up, and but also keep it short and sweet. You don't want to follow up with like a huge paragraph or 3 paragraphs about what you're doing. Just something very simple as, hey, it was great to meet you at, a reminder of where you guys met at during this conference or that event. It was great talking to you about, and then pick that thing you want to follow up with them. And then finish with the personal matter that we just talked about, like enjoy your weekend, your long weekend, or enjoy traveling to San Francisco next week, or whatever, just whatever it is that you notice or you had in mind with when talking to them. And the final one is like super, super important. It's to be clear on your expectations. I get like a lot of people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and I have so many people that reach out to me just like, hey, let's grab coffee. No, I don't have time. Like, I don't know what to expect. Are you going to pitch me for 30 minutes? Am I going to get anything out of that? Or are you going to lose my time? Am I even the right person to answer your expectations? So be super clear on your expectation. If you have a specific ask, is very, very important. Yeah. So next slide. So I will be sending slides over after, but before we move forward, I just want to share with you guys how to keep in touch with me. So I have the website. I also write a newsletter where I share my thoughts about entrepreneurship, community building, and inspiring women's stories. As I mentioned, La Creme de la Sem community is opening today. There are still some spots as a founding member, so you can visit the website La Creme de la Sem and hit apply, or click directly on this link. And then finally, you can also follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also very active there, and you can also follow my company. Next slides. Thank you so much for listening to me during this presentation. I hope it gave you a strong foundation, and really excited to move forward with the Fireside Chat with Michelle.
Awesome, Marian. Thank you so much. So comprehensive. And I know you already answered some of the top questions that a lot of founders were wondering about. So amazing. Awesome. Let's dive right in. So just to kick us off, I'd love to just hear your thoughts on, from your experience, some of the common mistakes that you see founders making when they're trying to make connections with potential funders or partners, and what steps they can take to avoid those mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. So the number one mistake I see is to be super salesy and immediately be pitching, like without even starting by introducing each other. So that's like a common mistake I see a lot happening, unfortunately. They're going straight into what's in it for me and what can you bring me. And to avoid that mistake, I really recommend first introducing yourself. Whether it's in person or virtually, it's always good to just start with the basics, just who you are, what you're working on, where you're located, why you're here. So if it's in person, you might expect something specific from that conference or from this networking event. If it's a one-on-one call, then you are looking to have, again, a specific outcome. So be very clear on that. Something that can be easily overcome is just do your homework. So if you have time to prepare because it's a call, go on the LinkedIn profile of that person, go on the social media, just Google that person to know what they are up to. So that's something very easy that might, again, sound very simple, but a lot of people don't do it. And it's always very uncomfortable when you're on the other side of being pitched, and that person has no idea who you are, or they talk about you as leading a team and you're a sole founder. So don't make those mistakes and make sure you do your homework. If it is in person, just asking that person, why are you here, what are you working on, what gets you excited nowadays. Just starting the conversation rather than what are you doing. I mean, of course, sometimes you you just ask that, but just trying to avoid that very straightforward question by just asking them why they are here. Yeah, what challenges do they have, how can you help them, like just all those really introductory words are very, very helpful.
Love it. Yeah, it's like all these little pieces kind of helping you demonstrate like your care for them and meeting their needs as a primary concern, and kind of leading with that. So wonderful. And that really kind of translates to all different kinds of, potential connections that you might be making. So that's wonderful. And so, once a founder has kind of made a connection, um, what are some of the best practices for meaningfully nurturing those relationships to ensure that they are mutually beneficial and long lasting?
Yeah, so one way to keep in touch is writing a newsletter. So I found out really easy to do that, like just sharing. I share lots of my thoughts, but I also provide a lot of value through the newsletter. So that's something that can easily be set up. In general, there is like a lot of free platform out there, like Substack is the one I'm using.
Mhm.
um, it can also be just very active on the social media. I know this is also something I leverage a lot. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I know a lot of people I meet with know what I'm up to because I share that on LinkedIn. You have to also be engaging. So whether you're sending a newsletter or being active on LinkedIn, you are doing just one too many. So you want to, in addition to that, nurture the relationship by like tagging people on LinkedIn, or just like sharing something like, oh, if you have a friend is looking for a job, oh, I just tagged this person on whatever job offer you see that might be useful. If you go to an event and you have a potential partner that might be there, just reach out to that person and be like, hey, I'm going to that event, are you going as well, you're thinking about going, and just you will come out as bringing value rather than, hey, let's meet there and let's schedule a 30-minute call so I can tell you all about what I'm building. It's just like having all those ways of connecting and nurturing relationship is more powerful by just being very thoughtful and very personal. So even like the newsletter, if you talk to someone that helped you build that newsletter, or that said that they were really excited for you to build a newsletter, once and send it over to that specific person, like, hey, I just sent my first newsletter, can you provide some feedback? So
Mhm.
having those kind of like really nice customized touch, it doesn't take a lot of time, it's really just about like once in a while, but that will help people to be reminded of what you're doing constantly.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of low barrier to entry strategies here that I know founders can implement kind of readily. So that's wonderful. And just, on this note of kind of staying top of mind, I know you kind of mentioned follow up during your presentation, and something that I know founders struggle with, in that follow up, is just, how to stay top of mind without coming off as overly persistent. And you kind of also mentioned that you don't want to be too salesy. So where do you kind of find the balance there?
Yeah, so first of all, to keep in touch, and you need to make sure that the other person also wants to stay in touch with you. So just having this common agreement of like, oh, if that's okay for you, I will send you a note on LinkedIn after we met. Just this kind of like open agreement will help. Um, you also need to ask what the preferred channel of that person is. I know that some people are using WhatsApp those days. I personally do not like WhatsApp. So when someone's like, "Oh, I will send you something on WhatsApp," I'm like, I don't want to talk to you because I don't want to have another WhatsApp channel. I'm French. WhatsApp helps me to keep in touch with my friends and my family. I don't want any professional things there. So I will either ignore or never answer, right?
Mm.
So not being as engaging as if it would be on LinkedIn or through email. So you want to make sure that you really qualify that, like what is the preferred channel for those people to keep in touch. And then if you are the one that wants to keep in touch with them, it's up to you to adapt. So if on the other side, I'm talking to an investor and an investor tells me, oh, contact me on WhatsApp, I will obviously do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It's kind of like being able to recognize where you kind of stand in that relationship building process and fall in line. So that's really awesome insight. Awesome. And so, I think we talked a little bit about this as well. And in terms of just, partnerships and building credibility and visibility, what is the role of local influencers or community leaders, and how can founders identify and leverage those connections to build that market presence?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I don't think that building a market presence is always useful with local community builders. So you have to be very mindful of why you want to get into that local market. You founders' time is very limited, so you have to make sure that you think strategically. Um, Luma is a good way to find events happening. But again, you have to be very mindful of your time. So I think it's a good way when you're just getting started, you're just trying to have a better understanding of the ecosystem, going to like a lot of networking events and make sure that you understand what's going on, who is there, is very useful. But then you have to immediately switch from that to, is it useful for me? Because once you have a good understanding of the local ecosystem, maybe it's not a fit for who you are, who you're trying to sell to, and it might not just bring value to what you're building. And even like in the conversation, you might not take a lot out of that. So you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of that. If that's the case, then local community builders are definitely was very helpful. They are super connectors. They know a lot of people. They can introduce you to a lot of people. But again, you have to make sure that you give before you get. They cannot do that for every single person that they met with. So one way to tap into the knowledge instead of just asking for an introduction is, what are the other events I should attend? And what other events are you going to this week or this year? So just have a good understanding of your industry. Maybe there is like a specific newsletter that everyone is following. Maybe there is a specific conference everyone is attending, and just making sure that you can network your way throughout the right target market is very useful. For some founders, it might be very useful to attend a lot of networking events. For myself, for example, being in touch with investors and funders and corporate partners, I know I could attend events every single day. I don't do it because I'm very mindful. But again, it's very useful for me to go attend those events. So I do it because it brings me value. So you have to make sure that, again, it's a fit for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be kind of such an individual experience for each founder and their business. So really, really important to evaluate that and make sure you're allocating your time wisely and your resources. So amazing. And I know that as in this digital world that we all live in, social media and kind of online platforms can be top of mind. And so what can founders do to strategically leverage, social media or maybe industry specific forums to help expand their networks and connect with the right audience?
Yeah, so finding the right social media is important. I've been quoting LinkedIn a lot because this is a very B2B. If you are selling D2C, direct to customers, Instagram or TikTok might be your best field. So you have to understand again who you're talking to, who is your target audience, who is your ideal customer profile, and then start building your presence on one of those channels. I think being on every single channel, there are so many those days, right? YouTube is coming back. TikTok was banned, it's back on. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Blue Sky is kind of replacing Twitter. X, right? So there's like a lot happening. It's not always easy to follow. It's not always easy to adapt to the algorithm. So I would recommend just like pick one platform that you feel more comfortable with and then just experiment. If you are experimenting LinkedIn and Instagram and for some reason Instagram is working better for you, go for it. Just double down on that. There is no right channel, there is no one size fits all. There are best practices, but they will depend on again what you're selling, who you're selling to, and how you want to approach your customer and be seen as well. I think that being a thought leader in your industry can be very useful. Um, again, depending on what you're building, and then starting to establish yourself as the thought leader on one industry is very can bring a lot of value to you and to your customer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's something that we have a lot of founders thinking about as kind of part of their pathway of growth. So that's incredible. And just, to close out here before we jump into live Q&A from the audience, I know we might have some first-time founders in the audience, or even, just some founders in the audience that may have limited time or resources. Any advice you would give to these founders that may have challenges with networking due to these limited time or resources?
Yeah, so I would recommend to be extremely strategic. Start to plan out what are the again like online, what are the top social media or newsletter that you have to follow or be part of or launch. For in-person events, something I like to do at the beginning of the year is also like mapping out all the events happening this year and starting to make my plans. You will also save money doing that because you will catch like all the early birds tickets. You will have like those Airbnb cheaper than those expensive hotels, and cheaper flights, of course. So I think anticipating is very useful, and then be extremely clear about what your expectation is and what your ask is. So when you pick a conference, what is the goal? Is it just to have a booth and be visible and then do like a lot of posts on social media to show that you were physically at this conference? Is this conference a good way for you to like network and meet like-minded individuals, meet customers, meet partners? Is this conference a good learning tools for yourself? Like you are not necessarily going to network heavily, but the content that is provided is going to help you move forward. So just be very, very, very clear on what your expectations are. And so when you decide to go to a conference or go to an online event or be very clear about what you ask for. So you have to make sure you have a specific ask so that people that want to help you can help you. If it's just like, oh, I'm looking for customers, this is too wide. You need to be like, oh, I'm looking for someone that is also building a product in the fintech industry and I'm looking to get further in that industry. What can you recommend, right? So just very, very specific with something that can easily be actionable by the person you're talking to. Don't be too broad.
Amazing. Love it, Marian. This has been so incredible. And we do have some time for live Q&A. So if you are in the audience and you have a question, make sure to drop it in that Q&A box at the bottom. We'll try to get to as many as possible. And just to kick us off, I see we have a couple folks here in the audience that are curious about your thoughts on pitch competitions or pitch contests. And any thoughts there on kind of the potential value in participating in something like that, or what other opportunities there are to share your pitch, if not a pitch competition?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the first part of the question is like, is it a good idea to attend a pitch competition? I would say it depends. It depends if you're ready to pitch. I do not recommend going to a pitch competition if you're not comfortable, if you haven't done your pitch with a lot of customers, a lot of partners, a lot of friends. We can support you because um, you're not gonna have an opportunity to make a good first impression. So make sure you are really solid on your pitch. An alternative can be like a local pitch competition when you have like less less challenge. Like maybe there's just like a lot of people that like startup but they're not investing in startup. That can be also a good way for you to test your public skills. I do not recommend applying to every single pitch competition, or it's the same goes with like every single grant, every single accelerator. You need to be strategic with your time. You need to make sure that it brings you value, and that whatever you're applying to, that it's something that is well known. So for example, Startup Grind is something that I was a judge at. It's a really famous pitch competition because Startup Grind is a really well-renowned community. So you want to make sure that whatever you're applying to, it's gonna have the outcome you expect, and you want to make sure you do a due diligence on that pitch competition before going all in and sending your pitch and your deck all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely goes back to, move it kind of this pattern or trend that you've mentioned of kind of moving slow to move fast. And I think that's wonderful. Just really buckling down and making sure you're fully prepared and have the confidence to share your story. Amazing. Awesome. So we also have a couple of folks here that I know have a little bit of confusion around, the difference between um, equity raise and, or sorry, well, somebody's asking, advice on doing an equity fundraise. But there was somebody else that was also asking, just about like the different implications with like dilutive and non-dilutive funding. If you could just dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes back to the slide I was sharing about the multiply by 10. When you fundraise through VC money, you give a part of your company, which is through equity. So you're gonna need to be very mindful about who you give money to, because then you're gonna give control, partial control of your company. Having this investing means that they can support you like on the positive aspect. They give you money, which is I mean, we saw that financial is a big issue for a lot of founders. um, so they will give you that fuel to help you go further, but they will expect you to go further and scale. So you need to also understand what it means to get money. It's not a magic wand. They're not gonna solve all your problem at once. It sure solves a few of those issues, but it's gonna uncover other issues, which is like, how do you allocate your money? Do you hire freelancer? Do you hire someone full time? Do you go to that big conference, to have that big booth that we just talked about? Like, it's just gonna uncover all the questions that you will have to be able to answer. You also have to do reporting on a regular basis to your VCs, depending on how much money you fundraise and who is leading the round. It can be every 2 weeks. So you also want to, know that every 2 weeks you're going to have to give a presentation of 30 minutes to an hour to investors and be challenged on that. So definitely pro and cons. I don't think there is any, again, size fits all. I think it's just about being mindful of what it means for you and for your business, and the pressure that you're also going to have once you fundraise. It's real.
Yeah, absolutely. Super helpful and so much to think about there. Yeah, it'll totally depend on you as an individual founder in your business. So wonderful. Awesome. I think we have time for one more question here. And I think this is good. We have a couple folks kind of asking about, I've made, the initial connection, maybe I've had some folks follow me, or, I've had some initial conversations, but nothing seems to be kind of moving forward past that. How can founders begin to kind of identify where the gap is so they can continue making progress and growing their network?
Yeah, so you have to be proactive. If we're talking about a relationship that is already established, it seems to be the case here. You want to make sure that you keep providing value. So just going for coffees or just picking someone's brain is not bringing value. You want to make sure that you share exciting things that are going on with you. Maybe you got your first user. Maybe you hit 100 users. Maybe um, you are attending a lot of conferences and one of them is selecting you as a speaker. So make sure you have something that is positive that you can share with that person you're talking to. You don't need to expect an answer. It can be like, hey, just want to reach out and share with you that I've been featured in this article. Such a great sign for my company. Um, let's keep in touch. And then you just leave it this way. And then 2 weeks later, you can follow back up with something else like, hey, I have this really exciting conference I'm attending, and I would love to know who else is going in your network. Like just make sure that you can share different things, that just sending those, sequence of email, which is like, have you seen my first email? Have you seen my second email? Have you seen my third email? Like doesn't bring any value. It's very spammy. So whatever you send or share, make sure that there is like something new for them.
Yeah, amazing. Marianne, this has been so wonderful, so much golden information here. And if you had just one key takeaway or piece of wisdom that you wanted to leave with the group here, what would that be?
That would be keep pitching. Always be pitching. Whether you talk to a partner, a customer, a friend, or someone you just met, just practice that one sentence pitch and ask for feedback as well. It's very useful.
Amazing. Awesome. Marianne, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for all of the insight and just such a great overview. And on behalf of the NASDAQ Center, we are just so grateful that you joined us today.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
And to our audience, we'd love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using those links that are going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.